Welcome back mga ka-Pinoy Channel. So this is my segment. It's called At Home with Ernesto. So today pag-uusapan po natin and I'll give you tips and pointers on how to winter prep your house during the winter months. Kasama ko po today si Nigel Hopkinson ng Accurate Home Inspection. He's a licensed home inspector here in Saskatoon. So Nigel, before the cold and winter months, what should need to be done to be sure that your home is comfortable through the winter months?
Well, you want to be sure that you get on it early. Early fall, September into October maybe at the latest. You want to look at some different components. The worst thing is it gets cold and you're out there in the middle of the -20 weather trying to do stuff outside to get the house ready, hanging windows, purging sprinkler systems and that sort of thing. I'll take you through a few things that major components that I think need to be looked at before that cold weather hits, so that when it does, you can sit in your house and enjoy your hot chocolate, enjoy the season, and not worry about if your home's going to make it through the winter or not.
Okay, so where do we begin?
Well, first off, we'd start with the roof and exterior components. Okay, and if you got to get up on your roof, and if you're nervous about getting up there at that height and climbing on a roof, you may want to hire this out to somebody. But the things that you're going to be looking for first off are broken and damaged shingles, because if you have broken or missing shingles, you're going to have it could lead to leaks in the roof.
Because damaged shingles or missing shingles could leak.
Oh yeah, for sure, you bet. So you're going to be looking at that. Also up there, that's not the only thing you'd look at. All of the roof penetrations where your plumbing vents come up and maybe your chimneys come out. Nowadays with the high efficiency, they don't have a chimney, but with the older ones they did. Any of those penetrations, they're gonna have a gasket that's placed over top and it's made to seal around so nothing leaks in. And you need to check that seal around the exterior of that gasket to make sure that it's properly sealed. What happens over time is it dries out from the sun and the wind, and then it cracks and then it starts to leak. So you would use a waterproof compound, a product that you'd buy at Home Depot or anywhere else, and any other building store, and they would tell you how to apply it. You put that on to stop any seals from leaking that way. Other outside components or exterior components that you want to think about are going to be your gutters. Okay, your gutters, you want to make sure they're clean of leaves and any tree debris and that sort of thing, because what happens in the spring, when the snow melts on your roof, it gets into the gutters. All of that debris plugs up the gutters. You have the water overflowing. It freezes, makes them heavy. They pull away from the house. So clean all that stuff out so they're nice and clean in the fall. And then in the springtime, the water will just go into the trough and down the downspout and get rid of properly. After that, you look at blowing out your sprinklers. Isolate any underground sprinkler you got. You want to blow it out with air. This is another thing you may want to hire out. Relatively cheaply, for $25 to $50, you can get your sprinklers blown out. And it requires a lot of air to do it properly. And the guys that go around doing it have the compressors that are big enough to get the job done right.
So is that all that the homeowners need to take care of?
No, there's other things you want to think about. If you have outdoor patio furniture, that patio furniture, you want to store it or cover it at least with a tarp or some kind of a breathable but waterproof cover, and that'll help to keep it in good shape too. Other things would be your lawnmower and any of your, if you have fountains or anything that's got water in it, drain those out, let your lawnmower drain it of fuel or let it run out of fuel, just let it run until it stops. And then store your pumps for your fountains and that indoors so that they don't freeze up and break on you.
Okay, so once it's all done, are we ready for a hot chocolate then in the fireplace, Nigel?
No, we got to go inside now and start looking at some of those interior systems that you want to have working in top-notch shape. The first thing you'd start with is your heating system. Now, whether that's a boiler or a furnace system, you're going to want to check it out, give it a test run, make sure that it's functioning properly. So during that test run, what I typically do with mine is I just set the thermostat up to say 80 degrees. Okay. And so then that furnace comes on and I go down and I have a look, make sure I got a clean filter in there, open up the cabinet, check inside and make sure it's all vacuumed out nice and clean. But let that system run and I go around and check each of my vents in all the rooms, make sure I got warm air coming up and that things are good like that. After I do a test run, if there are any issues with it, With the furnace operation, I'll get hire a contractor to come in and take care of fixing that up for me. You can also check for carbon monoxide leakage.
Okay.
And a good way to do that, if you go to a Home Depot or any of your building supply stores, they can sell you a one-time kit, or you can buy an instrument that will measure if you've got carbon monoxide. And you just put it at each vent and hold it there for a minute or two and make sure that there's no readings on there, nothing elevated anyway. The other thing with that is if you hire somebody to come in, there's lots of plumbing and heating contractors that'll come in, and for about $100 to $150, they'll test your whole system, they'll make sure that it's functioning properly, and they'll do that carbon monoxide test and make sure your cabinet's clean and all that as well. So after we're done with that heating system, that furnace and all, make sure that it's run good, then we want to look at the air conditioning.
But we're not getting it ready, right? You will be shutting it down for the winter?
Yep, that's right, Ernesto. We've got to look at a couple of components there that often get neglected and can cost you a lot of money in the spring if they've been left unattended to. The biggest thing is the condensing unit, and that's the unit that's found outside with the big blower fan in it. And what you want to do there is you need to clean that up. So you're going to take your hose and your sprayer on the end of your hose and put it on a fairly strong jet stream. And you're going to spray the coil out, the condenser coil out, and spray off your fan blades. After you've done that and you've allowed it to dry for a little while, you put a cover over it. And that cover, you can usually buy them from the same place you got your air conditioning unit from. And the cover will be breathable but waterproof. And that's going to keep it from getting any damage through any foreign materials or debris in there. Even the snow sitting on it through the winter, it won't fall in and get stuck in the fan components and that. After it's all covered up and sealed up, it's good for the winter, but there's one last thing you want to do, and that's stop the power from getting to it. So you throw the breaker to off on your electrical panel, then that way there's no chance that it'll try to start up in the winter by accident.
Oh, that's a good tip. So what about those central air or window air units in apartment or condo units?
The window or wall units, yeah, they need a little bit of treatment too. It's much the same as the central unit, the condenser. You're going to clean them all up. If you can remove it from the window and store it for the winter in your basement or something, that's the best thing to do. But for your wall mounted ones where you can't remove them and leave a hole in the wall, you're going to clean them all up. You're going to make sure your vents are closed, and then you're going to place a cover on the same as you would with your condensing unit on a central air system. Now that cover too, again, you can probably purchase one. If you really need to though, you could just use a tarp. A tarp will work just fine, and you seal that up. Some of the other heating components that people may use besides their furnace is they may have a wood burning fireplace or a wood stove. And if you've got a wood burning appliance, you want to make sure that you check that chimney before you're going to use it. Make sure that it's good and clean. It may require a sweeping, and if you haven't done that for a long time, it's not a fun do-it-yourself project. It makes a heck of a mess. You might want to hire somebody to sweep it for you. But once your chimney, you know your chimney's clean, and you check your flue damper that's up inside the chimney, make sure that that works properly, open and closed. Then you check your chimney draft, and the only way to do that is to take a roll of newspaper or a paper towel, light a little fire on it, and stick it underneath your chimney, and it should pull the smoke up. And if it pulls the smoke up, your draft is good and everything's fine. The last thing you want to check in your fireplace before you use it is the brick lining in there, the ceramic brick lining. And make sure that the bricks are all in place and that the mortar in between the bricks is there as well. If you're missing any bricks or part of brick or mortar, you run the risk of having a fire in the wall, the wood wall behind.
And that wouldn't be good.
Not at all. Never. That's never a good thing.
No.
You can check for leaks around your windows on any windy day. You just go around and feel for any draft coming in when the windows are closed properly. You can also use incense sticks if you want, or if you're some people who smoke will just use a cigarette and take it around and watch for the drafts interrupting the regular flow of the smoke going away.
But you can put the plastic around the window frame and seal them up, right? Yeah,
you can. But Ernest, that can be expensive to do, a little unsightly, and sometimes if it's on the exterior, the wind can make it come apart on you and then it'll leak again. One of the best ways to do it and still maintain the proper amount of light coming in, because plastic can dim that as well, would be to use caulk. Caulking is very inexpensive. You can get it in rope or in a tube. And all you would do is anywhere where you've detected any leaks, you would run a little bit of caulk in there and it would plug it up. very easily removed in the spring when it's time to open up, and it isn't going to fall out on you during the winter time. Doors are another place where you can lose a lot of your warm air. The easiest thing to check with those is the weather stripping, to make sure that you've got a nice tight seal up against the door when you close the door. Have a look at that from the outside. And the weather stripping is a fairly flexible material that allows the door to press up against it. Besides the weather stripping, the other spot would be at the very bottom of the door. And there's a sweep that's attached to the bottom of the door. And that just makes, when it closes over the threshold, it makes contact with the threshold and keeps air from leaking in that way as well. So if you have those in good shape, if you've checked your weather stripping and your door sweep and they're in good shape and you got no air leaking, you're going to be good to go.
So what are the things that we need to be concerned when we prepare our house for the cold winter months?
Well, I think, Ernesto, I think we've covered the basics of everything. Each home is different, and each homeowner needs to be familiar with the requirements of their own home. Good communication. If you've got a great home inspector, you can call your home inspector and they should be able to help you up with or help you out with any specific questions to do with your home, because they've been through it. That's something that I like to do, is keep those lines of communication open when people hire me, and help them with the problems that arise for them, so that they can have a good experience with their home ownership and not get caught cold in the winter.
Well, thank you again, Nigel, and there you go, mga kababayan. So pagdating po ng winter months, it's very important na talagang itong mga tips and pointers na binigay ni Nigel today is talagang isa-isahin po natin yan, kasi it save us more money and time, and it will make our house like well maintained. Okay, there you go.